Bienvenidos amigos to another episode of More Life Diaries. And today we're giving you 5 things to know before you move or visit beautiful
Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Before we get into the top 5 things to know about Puerto Vallarta, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. There should be one up here. There's definitely one down here. Hit the subscribe button. Let's get to it. So these are the 5 things that we kind of found out as we moved here and we wanted to share with you guys. And some of the things you can generalize to Mexico as a whole, and some of the things are very Puerto Vallarta specific.
Without further ado, let's get into it.
Starting at number 5, the weather and the seasons.
When should you come to Puerto Vallarta? So we arrived here in November, and that's the start of their winter season, just like it would be the start of winter in, Canada, United States. And that is, to me, the perfect weather. Hot and sunny, no rain, no clouds in the sky, every day around 28 as a high, that's Celsius. And in the night, it kind of goes down for perfect sleeping weather. Maybe you might need a little thin long sleeve shirt or something like that if you're by the water, but A1 weather. And now we are hitting, mid-March, and it's starting to warm up. It's starting to get a little bit hot and sweaty throughout the day. And we've heard that we should just be prepared to be sweating all the time through the summer, just constantly. It gets into the 40s here.
So
Sweat City.
As Kathleen said, weather's been perfect. It's rained maybe 2 hours in one evening since we've gotten here. Otherwise, the weather is the most consistent I've ever seen in my life of anywhere that we've traveled. So the weather is amazing here in Puerto Vallarta this time of year. And again, in the summertime, we heard that it gets very humid, touches 40 degrees Celsius regularly.
Rains every day for about an hour.
In the evening time, so still a nice time to visit, but definitely the seasons do have a very big impact on the weather here. And if you do decide to travel, at different times of year throughout Mexico, there's definitely different areas that have very different weathers, including snow in some areas. So make sure to be mindful of the seasons when you're prepping a trip or a move, especially a move. We're hoping that you do
a little research,
but definitely look at where you're going, look at the weather dependent on the season that you're going to be traveling.
Yeah, it's a common misconception that everywhere in Mexico will be hot. There's lots of places that have higher altitude, and with that comes cooler weather, especially in the evenings and once the sun goes down. So look into where you're going, and if you're planning a vacation, what type of weather you can handle, because even now we are hearing a lot of tourists saying wow, it's extremely hot in the afternoon. So if you want warmer weather than where you're from, but not unbearable, I would suggest coming in, December, January, February time.
On to number 4. And this one is very important for us. Explore the city, the unbeaten path.
Absolutely. You always hear stories of people saying, don't go off the resort, don't leave the hotel. We can't speak for every single place, but absolutely in Puerto Vallarta, leave, explore, and you'll find that there's a lot of other people doing just that. The city is great for that. You can walk a lot of places, see a lot of cool things. We've made videos on the Malecón and the Mirador. Those are great places just to walk and get a sense of the city and the culture, views as well, and to discover places restaurants, food trucks.
Look things up. People have more than enough videos. We're going to be putting out a lot of videos on the unbeaten path.
Local eats.
So do make sure to venture out of the very touristy areas. There's so many hidden gems. There's so many hidden beaches that, you know, have little to no one on it or do have Mexican locals on it. So it's such a wonderful city. that it's a shame that more people don't take advantage of everything the city has to offer beyond the, you know,
The Malecon.
the Malecon, the tours that they try to sell you. I would say definitely, again, research when you're coming here, watch videos on people who do live here, and do speak to locals when you are here. Tell them you want to venture out, you want to explore. There's so many things to see. There's never a dull moment. It's such an amazing city that it is a shame that, you know, people do just stick to the resorts or do stick to, you know, the surrounding areas of their hotel.
So a couple things to search for are, there's a lot of nice hikes to different beaches if you are able to. There's varying difficulties with those hikes, and they generally end up at a waterfall or a secluded beach, and markets. And we have some videos on markets as well. There's very local produce and thrifting markets. There's, you know, artisanal markets, and there's, you know, more markets geared towards tourism, but there's so many, and there's like basically one every day of the week if you're interested. So those are good starting points of things that you can look into that might be of interest to you if you're visiting the city.
Yeah, hikes, waterfalls, markets, restaurants, everything that you may be interested in, you can definitely find a lot of here in Puerto Vallarta. On to number 3. So for medium and long-term stays, we find it very important for you to come here and make sure that you're comfortable with the neighborhood you'll be living in, and also to speak to locals, to speak to people who live here, to try to get the best deal. A lot of people, they book long-term from wherever they're from, and they end up paying quite a lot more than they would if they were here. So when we first got here, we booked a month on Airbnb just to settle in, be comfortable for a month, and have the time to really look for a longer term stay once we were here. And that's exactly what we found.
Even just walking around and looking for, let's say, renta signs, that's a good way too, and just directly dealing with the person who will be renting to you. And yeah, like we find a lot of inconsistency in terms of pricing for the same type of thing. Like for instance, in our case, we have a 2-bedroom apartment. I mean, there's, you know, it could be from $1,000 USD up until $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 USD. And, you know, sometimes that depends on, you know, amenities like pools and that kind of thing, and the neighborhood you're in. But sometimes it's just, you know, people tell you and you're like, ooh, like.
Yeah, we find that what's different than, you know, where we're from in Toronto is there is somewhat of a standard in Toronto with what you're going to pay relative to the neighborhood. It's a little bit the same here, but the standard, there's a lot more fluctuation within the standards. Do your research, do your due diligence, and you'll find good prices if you look for them from here specifically.
Or if you know somebody that's already here, have them kind of look around for you, or send you some good Facebook groups. Like Facebook groups are a great way to look into it. If you're looking, I guess maybe there's rental sites, and maybe these are the ones where people are booking on that are just taking advantage of them and charging crazy. I mean, just to give it a quick anecdotal example is Mark's mom met somebody who has like a 1-bedroom and is paying like 5 times more than us monthly. And I don't know what kind of amenities it came with, but I mean, I don't know what could justify that price increase exactly.
Basically a pool, and some of them aren't even 1-bedrooms. There's as small as studios. If you speak Spanish, go on the Spanish websites, the Mexican local websites, and you'll find the better deals there. They do tend to go up. Not saying it's a gringo price, but they do tend to go up if you're in a English speaking Facebook group. Number 2, we're talking about prices, and this is the price that you'll be paying for different types of things when you are shopping. So let's say the local markets, prices when you're buying stuff on the beach. Look into what the price of things should cost, and you'll get an idea fairly quickly once you do come here. And also know when to negotiate. So not everyone at every moment is willing to negotiate. There are certain things that we found a great consistency with that are being sold on the beach.
Definitely with food, you typically can't negotiate with food and produce and that type of thing. I mean, unless it's the end of the day or you're buying extreme bulk. I mean, if you want to, definitely you can try and they'll just say no. But typically with food, it's the price they give you. It's the price that's written on the board. Things that you can negotiate with are clothes, like a lot of the artisan stuff that they come around with, blankets, jewelry, handmade things like that. Especially if you're buying more than one or if you're buying more than one item, you can negotiate with these things. If you're going into a store and there's price tags on them, that's the price. Like if there's no price tag on them and you have to ask the person, then generally they're going to expect you to negotiate a bit, and they've probably priced it up a lot to allow for that. So then definitely negotiate. And when it comes to pricing, if you're in the market for a big item, souvenir, like some sort of textile, blanket, tablecloth, that kind of thing, shop around. Don't be in a rush to buy it from the first vendor you see, because you will find varying prices depending on the neighborhood you're shopping in and how geared towards tourism it is. And you also want to make sure that you are buying something that is authentic. I'm assuming you'd want something that is authentic and handmade from here. So it's good to just get a feel of what's out there and shop around. And we're going to do, I think, a more in-depth video on how to know whether something's authentic or not in the near future, but we are working on that one.
But there is quite a bit that is made not in Mexico and being sold as authentic Mexican goods. So definitely shop around. The more north you get from the Malecon, so for example, we're in Colonia Cinco de Diciembre, the cheaper things do get, and it's the exact same things that you'll find.
But to be specific, that's the more north you come from Rio Quale, Zona Romantica and Centro, but then also you want to go south from the hotel zone, definitely the marina, to this like very niche area of Cinco de Diciembre where it is still more local.
So we've been able to kind of pinpoint also where the distributors are of certain things. So we're able, like if we want a touristic t-shirt, we're able to go directly to the store that supplies most of the markets here, and it's basically less than half of the price. So just be mindful when it comes to negotiating produce and like meat, stuff like that. You cannot really negotiate. There's not much wiggle room. However, clothes, souvenirs, those are the types of things that you can negotiate. That being said, they're not always willing to negotiate, especially on very busy weekends. So if it is a very busy weekend and you are looking to buy something, sometimes they just, they're rolling the dice. They just figure that they'll make their money
if it's not from you, it's going to be from the next person.
Exactly.
So, and another thing to go with price is that I think sort of part B to this is that Mexico is cash driven. Make sure you come here with specifically pesos. If you're American, you're coming with USD. That can be accepted in like more touristic spots, like closer to the airport or hotels. But typically it's, if you want to be prepared and have an easier time, come with your pesos or come ready to get those exchanged. And again, with cards, there are places that take credit cards. Again, more touristic areas, bigger restaurants, attractions, that type of thing. But if you're coming out and you're venturing outside of the hotel, smaller restaurants, markets, people on the beach, even smaller stores will only take cash. Solo efectivo is a sign that you will see. And it's just easier to be prepared that way.
For ease of mind and ease of stress, just come with cash. It's a lot easier. If you're going to bring cash here and it's not pesos, bring USD, exchange it. Also, there are ATMs everywhere, but the cards are not always working. So me and Kathleen are from the same bank. We basically have, the same card and
same account.
Mine does not work anywhere and hers works everywhere. So it is very confusing. I'm not sure why, but parents and friends have had the same issues where it is difficult to go to an ATM that sometimes just based on it working. So best thing to do, bring cash, convert it, spend it. The last one, number one, last but not least.
Very important.
Safety. Is it safe here in Puerto Vallarta?
Absolutely see. I think it's very safe here. We've been here since November. We've had no issues. We've had several visitors of all ages, our parents, people like with young children, just single people who've come to visit us. And we know a lot of other foreign families who are here with their young kids. And everyone has said the same thing. I've never felt unsafe, never felt threatened. During the day, in the evening, at night, you felt safe.
And the reason we put this at number 1 on our list is our previous video, top 5 reasons we moved to Puerto Vallarta. A lot of people were commenting like, glad to see that it's safe. Puerto Vallarta, speaking on just simply this city here, it is very safe. We've never had any sort of sketchy encounters, anything that we saw that we felt uncomfortable with. So yes, it is safe.
Yeah, so just on that note, Mexico is a large country, just like the States, just like Canada. There are definitely places where you should, not go, or if you're going to go, where you take an extra amount of precaution there, places to avoid, whatever. We're not saying that, those stories that you hear about Mexico are absolutely not true. They just don't speak for the 100% of the country. When you're preparing to come here and we were researching different cities, we were looking at that, of course, safety of driving across the country as well. And what I did notice was an overwhelming amount of people being like, I've been coming to Mexico for 10, 20, whatever years, driving through Mexico, driving as a solo female traveler, what have you, never had an issue. So typically the places that you're going to go as a tourist and a foreigner are not the places where these, problems typically happen. So I think one of the things I hear the most from foreigners here is if you are looking for trouble, it will find you. But if you're not, you're going to be 95% of the time fine, right? Of course, bad things happen everywhere, and you should definitely use, common sense and take precautions and be aware of your surroundings and all those typical safety advice, street smarts and that.
And like everywhere, in every country, in every city, there are places where you should not go. Please make sure to educate yourself if you are going to venture out, and make sure that the places that you do want to go visit is safe.
And just to add to that, in terms of sketchy activity, and looking for trouble, and we always talk about avoid these neighborhoods, avoid that, whatever. The activities you should think of avoiding, like we're not going to get into too much detail because we don't do them. In any place might find you some trouble. So this is definitely no exception. You're in a foreign country, you don't understand, who's who and all of those details. I'm not judging anyone, but if you want to get into that, you just know that you are taking a risk.
And now we're going to hit you guys with the bonus thing to be careful with, and that is scams. Not specific to Puerto Vallarta, and these scams do happen everywhere in the world, but we've kind of searched Facebook groups a little bit and see what are common scams that could happen here in Puerto Vallarta.
That, have been known to happen. Maybe.
So obviously the biggest one is pickpocketing, especially in a busy area like the Malecon,
where you're distracted by many different things. One example that we see a lot for Puerto Vallarta specifically is this scam where you're walking along and somehow you get mustard or some sort of item squeezed onto your pants or shot onto your pants. I don't know how it happened exactly that they do
Catsup.
Catsup salsa. And then someone comes out of nowhere, some, good Samaritan comes out of nowhere to help you get that stain off your shirt, your pants or whatever. And while they're doing that, they pickpocket you. Haven't seen it, but I've heard about this a lot, specifically in this city. I think a good just takeaway lesson, like don't let people touch you. Okay. If you get stained, if you step in something, take care of it yourself, thank the person and get away from them as quickly as possible. Timeshare scams.
Oh yeah, timeshare scams, classic.
So what happens here a lot is people try to sell you on a really good excursion package. Like you're getting all of this stuff for like such a low price, and all you have to do is watch this, hour presentation. No big deal. There'll be drinks and whatever. And then they try to sell you on the timeshare, and they put a lot of pressure on you to give in and pay them whatever money they need. So yeah, one way is the
And
excursion.
just to cut you off, it's usually a very cheap excursion.
It's tempting.
Very tempting.
And you think you found like the deal of all deals, but don't get too excited. So it's with the excursions, and often as well tequila tastings. They'll bring you in for some free tequila shots, get you feeling good, and then try and pressure you into a timeshare. So just be aware of it. If it sounds too good to be true, it might just be. If you're not sure, it's good again to ask around. If you know anyone that's been here for a while, or even at your hotel, is this like a reasonable price for something? Or look online and see what a typical price is. But if they're selling you, it's $10 and we'll give you all of this, there's a good chance that they're going to try and
then you're just kind of pressured into signing a contract of some sort. They'll convince parents to spend a lot of money on a timeshare just to go see some dolphins or hold a crocodile.
I mean, it's very similar to how they get false confessions out of people in interrogation rooms. They just wear you down until you agree. And one more to watch out for. It's a scam. It could just be a mistake sometimes, is getting shortchanged. This is something I've heard from even people who've been living here for a couple years. When they give you your change, make sure you count it right then and there and that it is the right amount. Make sure you take the time and count that money, because sometimes they will shortchange you, and whether it's a mistake on their part, an honest mistake, or they are just, lifting a couple money, like some of your dollars into their pocket instead of giving you that change. Just watch out for it.
Places don't always have like the bill either. Sometimes the waitress will just come up to you and say it was 350 pesos. So when you're ordering, just look at the menu, have a rough idea of how much things do cost, or even just keep track of it. And
don't be afraid to ask, how much was it for each of these tacos or whatever.
Mistakes do happen, and they are generally very fair if a mistake, an honest mistake.
And I think sometimes it works both ways, because we've definitely gotten the end price and we're like, really?
We should be paying a little bit more.
I feel like it's so cheap, but okay.
Yeah, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the 5 things to know about Puerto Vallarta. If you are going to be traveling here or moving here, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That's really what helps us keep going, keep making these videos, and keep making travel content. And if you have any questions, or if you would like to move here or would like to travel here, hit that comment section for all the good stuff.
Yeah, let us know. What do you think? If you have any other advice, or if you have any questions.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. This is our journey, More Life Diaries. Peace.